Hello. Now that you know what properties of matter are and what they can be used for in chemistry, we're going to discuss 4 important properties of matter today. So as a quick review, let's talk about what a property is and how it is used in chemistry. So properties are simply characteristics of substances. It's also important to remember that every pure substance, meaning every element or compound, has its very own unique set of physical and chemical properties. Because that set of properties is totally unique to that one substance, this property set can be used to identify the substance or to differentiate, meaning tell it apart from other substances. No two substances have the same set of properties, so we can say that the properties are like a substance's fingerprint. That's why we are able to use the substance's properties to identify it and to tell it apart from other substances. Now, we're going to talk about 4 properties today that you will eventually be using to differentiate substances. The first property is color. Color is a physical property because we can simply look at a substance and observe the color without changing the identity of the substance. As you probably can guess, color is not a very reliable property for identifying or differentiating between substances because there are millions of substances that have the same color. So I could get an idea of, well, this powder may be white and this powder may also be white. So I may think perhaps they're the same, but I'm definitely going to need more information in order to make that conclusion. The next property that we'll talk about today is odor. Odor is simply the substance's smell or what it smells like. Odor sort of has a negative connotation, so oftentimes we may think odor to be a bad smell, but that's not necessarily true. Some substances have a very strong specific odor. That might be a bad odor. That could be a very good or a sweet odor. Some other substances may have a very weak odor or be what we call odorless, have no smell at all. Smell, like color, can give us perhaps a clue or an idea to a substance's identity, but it's also not a very reliable means of identification because I can't be so specific about an odor, as well as the fact that some substances may have similar odors and some substances don't have an odor at all. The next property we'll talk about is flammability. Flammability is the property that describes how easily a substance will burn or ignite. Ignite simply meaning catch on fire. Flammability is the one chemical property that we will discuss in this unit. It is a chemical property because the identity of the substance is changed when something is burned. And in order to test for flammability, you need to burn it, light it on fire. Flammability can somewhat be used to identify substances. If one substance is very flammable while another is not flammable at all, we can pretty safely conclude that they are not the same substance. However, in this class, you will not be testing flammability on your own. Do not try this at home. The final property that we will discuss today is solubility. Solubility is the property that describes a substance's ability to dissolve in a liquid. We say that a substance is soluble in a given liquid if, when placed in that liquid, it dissolves. A substance is what we call non-soluble in the given liquid if, when placed in that liquid, it does not dissolve. Now, some vocabulary to know when talking about solubility. There are 2 substances involved when testing solubility. There are the solid that goes into the liquid and the liquid in which the solid is placed. The solid, or the substance that is being dissolved in the liquid, is what we call the solute. The liquid, or the substance that the solid is being placed in, is called the solvent. Something worth mentioning here is that water is one of the most common solvents. In fact, so common that we call it the universal solvent. Now, very important that we know how to test solubility because solubility can be very helpful in identifying or differentiating substances. It's also a very easy and simple test to perform, so it's very, very helpful for us in application. A solubility test simply involves taking the solute and placing it into the solvent. The results are very simple. If that solute dissolves, we say that it is soluble in that particular solvent. If the solute does not dissolve, then we can conclude that it is non-soluble in the given solvent. Now, let's talk about how this can be applied to identifying or differentiating substances. The results of a solubility test have the potential to give us some very good information about the identity of two substances. Now, if we perform a solubility test and find that both of the substances are either soluble or non-soluble, meaning they both have the same solubility, like in this top table, we're not able to draw a definite conclusion. We cannot determine whether the substances are or are not the same, because many substances can be soluble in a given solvent. So the fact that they are both either soluble or non-soluble does not definitely tell us whether they are or are not the same substance. However, if I perform a solubility test and find that one substance is soluble while the other is non-soluble, I can definitively or definitely conclude that those substances are not the same. So again, if I perform a solubility test and find that two substances have different solubility in the same solvent, meaning one is soluble and the other is not, we can 100% conclusively state that those substances are not the same. Because if they were the same substance, based on what we know about properties, they would need to have the same solubility in a given solvent.